The furry fandom has seen a rise in fursuit seller scams on TikTok, primarily featuring fursuit makers' content being stolen and re-uploaded on scammers' accounts to try and fool people into giving them money. In a fandom which centers around one's self-expression has been popularized by fursuits, scummy people have found an opportunity to profit off of people who are genuinely interested in getting suits, but may not have the budget to afford it. So, why is this happening? And how can you protect yourself from it? Well, let's delve into the why first and foremost. Due to TikTok's rise in popularity since 2020 in particular, a lot of makers have gone to making short-form content in order to help promote their businesses. Since the algorithm has become a fast means of getting your work seen by new people's similar interests, it's essentially become the rival to YouTube and other platforms for video-based promotion. TikTok and YouTube both operate on a system where if they see you interacting with one particular type of content, the algorithm will continue to push more of that kind of thing to keep you on the website longer. The primary currency, outside of advertisements and money of course, for social platforms is interaction and time spent on the platform. And the more that people visit or spend time on their sites, the better it is for their company and investors as a whole. It's why doom scrolling has become even more prevalent, because we essentially get sucked into this constant hole of scrolling and being fed more of this information, and ultimately feeling worse. Furry content has changed significantly since the early days of furry YouTube. In lieu of long-form videos like The Bottle, a lot of newer furries tend to spend more time on scrolling platforms like TikTok and seeking out short-form content because, well, that's what they're interested in. Furries will see fursuiter skits on TikTok, for example, then the algorithm will continue to push that to them, which is where the business side of things come in. While a majority of furries don't own a fursuit, it's undeniable that the art form has helped shape the fandom into what it is. We've seen the rise in Dino Mask and Lava Fox fursuits as a way for fursuiting to become more financially accessible to a lot of people, and new makers are entering the scene every day. This is unfortunately where we come across our problem, which is scammers. Now, scammers are no stranger to the internet. They're everywhere from job board sites to stealing your information for reselling. In a world that's getting more and more stressful and economically tight, people are looking for ways to steal your money for their own benefits. It sucks, but not everyone out there is in there for your own interests or has your best interest at heart, and some people are willing to do some pretty underhanded things in order to benefit themselves. The furry fandom has had this reputation of a bunch of rich fursuit makers and furries who earn thousands upon thousands in their IT jobs, and they're able to spend them on big walking carpets and other luxuries. While there are a lot of furries who make a decent amount of money, it's not the actual average income, and it can vary wildly from person to person. But scammers aren't going to recognize that. The scammers are just going to see the stereotype of rich furries and jump on the bandwagon to make a quick buck. A decent fursuit head starts anywhere from $500 to over $5,000, or even higher depending on how popular the maker is and which country they're coming from. For the average person in the United States, that's anywhere from 1 month to half a year's worth of rent alone. The materials for making a fursuit are getting more and more expensive as well, and the time spent to learn how to do it can often be more than people are willing to put into it or have available to them. So a lot of people are going to be looking for other makers to make their suits for them to realize their characters. So let's bring it all back in. How can you spot a scammer? Well, when it comes to fursuit makers, here's some generally good questions you can ask. Look at their TikTok profile and ask yourself, do they have any links to other social media platforms or an official website? Or is it just a blank page? How many videos have they uploaded? How many followers do they have? Is there any consistency between the style of suits made, or do they all seem like they've been pulled out of nowhere? Does their account name feel like an actual fursuit maker's business, or someone outside of the fandom just trying to look like they're in the know? A lot of scammers will generally pull from popular makers like Mix Candy, Eno, or other high-quality makers because they know that their relative quality will wow people who don't know who they are. It's impossible for people to know who every maker is, and unless you have a really keen eye for details or have seen a maker's work before, it can be hard to tell who's legitimate and who's trying to pull out the rug from underneath you. Now, something to note is that new or small makers don't necessarily start off with poor quality suits. A maker can practice on their own time and then start to post on social media. And sometimes they can have little examples of their work because they've just started building their online presence. However, that's why it's important to see if they have other social medias within matching branding. If you see photos of the suit posted elsewhere under a different name, it's likely a scam. Another thing to note is, how are they listing their prices? A big red flag for scammers is if you go into the comments of someone's video and you just see a bunch of replies from the creator going, "DM me for prices." A lot of proper fursuit makers will usually have a website or card or at least a picture somewhere telling about their proper prices. If it's a pre-made suit being sold, the makers will usually at least have a base price that they can reply with, or tell you where to go to the auction site, for example. Telling someone to DM them for examples or prices is putting the onus on the buyer, and is essentially opening the opportunity for the scammer to try and hook you into paying them before, well, running away with your money. It's the difference between the Krusty Krab and a field full of fishhooks. One of them is serving you actual food, while the other is using stolen food to try and hook you in and steal your information. If the prices are too good to be true, that's also a red flag. You cannot get a legitimate fursuit head for $100, and if you see anything listed around that price range or otherwise, it's likely a scammer. At best, you would get something akin to the Alibaba fursuits, where they steal the designs of popular suitors and then make cheap copies of them. And of course, if you somehow get on the hook of one of the scammers, pay attention to how they're asking for their payment. Are they taking payment through gift cards or Cash App? Are they asking for your banking information? Are they telling you to pay them using the friends and family function on PayPal, or are they asking for sensitive information? Are they looking for a check or a money order? While it's easy to think that a lot of us are immune to theft and scams, scammers are always finding ways to wow us with a new way of stealing our money. Unless the fursuit maker has a legitimate business and is taking payment through trackable means like PayPal invoices, it's very likely a scam. Of course, this is all just tip of the iceberg stuff. Are there other types of scams in the fandom? Have you seen or been a victim of scams? Let me know in the comments below. I'm certain I've missed stuff. But with that being said, thank you all for watching. Join my Discord server and follow me on Twitch and my second channel and all that. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!